What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Beyond the Arc. This is episode 4 of my NBA podcast. It's been a while. This was supposed to be out Tuesday or Wednesday. Unfortunately, I had surgery the morning after Game 5, so I wasn't able to talk real well or breathe real well. I still can't breathe that well, but, I couldn't wait any longer. I had to, get this episode out because, the Game 5 was Monday, so it's been, five days or so since Denver finally won their first NBA championship in franchise history. Finally got it done after 47 years. And, this is congrats to the city of Denver. They've waited. They've had, a loyal fan base there for so long. To the city of Denver. They needed something good to happen. Obviously, the Broncos haven't made noise in quite some time. So it's good to see Denver have something good happen for them. And obviously, after 47 years, the Nuggets were able to get it done. Huge shout out to Michael Malone, obviously, and Nikola Jokic for everything they did. Obviously, it wasn't just Nikola Jokic, but, he really put the city of Denver, not even just, the Nuggets. He put the city of Denver on his back, and he led them to this title. And, all credit goes to him. Looking at this playoffs, it's been pretty incredible. It's been a good playoffs. Everyone, that I talked to about it said they really enjoyed this playoffs, and they said, the finals were okay. And I really, think that a lot of people didn't really enjoy the finals as much as previous years because the Nuggets were just so dominant. And that's, all credit to them. I think every team that they played, no team really had an answer for them. They're the clear best team in the NBA. Obviously, they're already looking to repeat next year. That's all they've talked about, and that's all that you see they are already winning the odds to, repeat again next year. And obviously, why not? If teams have to look now to build to compete with the Nuggets. And so looking at Game 5 was, it was kind of frustrating, to be honest with you, because the Heat could have made it easier on themselves. They did a lot in this series to make things hard on themselves. Obviously going down 3-1, trying to do the impossible, come back from, well, it's not impossible, there's teams that have done it, but, having to win 3 games straight and 2 of them be in Denver is a very, very tough thing to do. So obviously going into Game 5, it's looking like it's the impossible thing to do, but they only lost this game by 5. And there was a lot of things in this game that if it was just a little bit different, it could have changed this game. Heat could have won, forced a Game 6, and then you never know what would have happened there. But all in all, Denver was the better team. They're the best team in the league, so it's only right that they win on their home court in Game 5. Looking at this game, though, as I was watching, obviously both teams struggled. Both teams struggled early. The Heat really couldn't make shots. The Nuggets started to pull away a little bit, and then, midway through, that first quarter and second quarter, Jokic and Gordon both pick up 2 fouls. And this is huge because, a guy like Bam Adebayo, who's been really aggressive this series, he was really aggressive in the finals for some reason. He really wasn't all playoffs, and then the finals he decides to be aggressive. I don't know why, but it's a good thing. It's a really good thing for when Bam's aggressive and when he's, attacking, when he's driving, when he's taking good shots, not throwing up, terrible shots that are contested. But Adebayo was able to take full advantage of Jokic and Gordon both being out and both having to sit out because of foul trouble. They moved Jeff Green to the center, and, obviously he's a veteran guy. He knows what he's doing. He's been there before, but he can't guard Bam. And Bam took advantage of that, got a couple of good baskets on him. I think they were both and ones. And then they ended up having to bring in DeAndre Jordan off the bench, who has literally not touched the court for the Nuggets in these playoffs. And they had to bring him in because they did not have anybody else. Literally had nobody else to bring in. So there's that. But, this game, I noticed a lot of physicality. The Heat were playing like you should in an elimination game. The physicality was there for the Heat. That's not what they lacked in this Game 5. That's not what they lacked at all. Their physicality was there. Butler was getting to the line early. He was playing good early, but the problem for the Heat was scoring, and it's been the problem all series long. They had 1 game out of the 5 where they scored over 100 points, and that 1 game they won. They just couldn't make shots. You look at people like Gabe Vincent. Again, where did Gabe Vincent go? He went 3 of 13 this game. And he's been doing that all finals. He played a good first 2 games. I will give him that. He played a good game 1 and game 2. And then games 3 through 5, he disappeared. Both 2 of those being at Miami. And you just can't do that if you're playing like that. But the Heat found a little success in the second. They were, cutting, knocking down shots, able to force turnovers. Kyle Lowry picked Jokic's pocket a couple times. And, Lowry really played a really good game 5. He played like he's been there before, which he has. He won a championship, obviously, with the Toronto Raptors in 2019 against the Golden State Warriors. But he played like a vet early on, and, the turnovers kept killing Denver early. They really did. Michael Malone obviously wasn't happy. You hear him in some, timeouts being, saying we got to stop turning the ball over. But one thing he preached was defense. He said it starts with defense. That's how the Miami Heat have been all year. They start with defense. But the problem is you can only play so much defense, and Miami did play defense in this game. They held the Nuggets to 94 points. But when you can't score more than 90, you're not going to win many games, especially in the NBA today. But Bam Adebayo, in this game, had a humongous first half. He had 18 points. He was attacking Jokic. He was being aggressive, doing all the things you would want Bam Adebayo to do in an elimination game, in a game where you have to win. He comes out in the second half and scores 2 points. He finished the game with 20 points. He had 18 in the first half. Why he stopped being aggressive, why he kept, passing, not wanting to play like he did in the first half, I have no idea. It didn't make any sense to me. But that's what happened. And you look at the first half, the Heat, I believe, were up 6 at the end of the first half, in a great position, and they could have been up a lot more. And I remember watching halftime, and a lot of people were saying that they don't feel comfortable with this lead that the Heat had. They said it could be a lot more. The Nuggets shot 1 of 15 from 3 in the first half. They finished the game 5 of 28 from 3. Something crazy like that. The Nuggets did not have a good game offensively at all. At all. Played shockingly bad. But again, they were still able to win this game, and it's because of their defense. And it's also because the Heat just genuinely could not score. I don't know why that kept happening, but it was a constant theme throughout these finals. Is it was the Heat just could not score in crucial moments. Jamal Murray, this game, he only finished with 14. He kind of struggled early. He couldn't knock down shots. He wasn't getting in that rhythm. He were playing some good defense on him. They kept blitzing him. They blitzed him again this game, and it worked. He was missing shots. Not that it was some, groundbreaking discovery. Oh, let's blitz Murray, because they've tried that in the past and it didn't work. Murray just wasn't on. Murray just wasn't making shots. He just wasn't doing the things he usually does. But the major overlying story was Jimmy Butler. And, it's bad, because it seemed like Jimmy Butler was, throughout this game, was constantly waiting, on someone else to be oh, I need to take this game over. There were so many moments where they were leading in this game, and, a little 6-0, 7-0, 8-0 run could have, put them up by 15 to 20. And Jimmy Butler was playing like he had another superstar on his team that was, going to make sure they get, their points. But they don't. Miami doesn't have that. It had to be Jimmy Butler, because, the role players weren't really there. Caleb Martin, Caleb Martin played okay, but he wasn't, he wasn't there in that, Gabe Vincent wasn't there. Max Strus wasn't there. Jimmy Butler had to be the guy, and he looked reluctant to score. He looked very hesitant. He looked, even in matchups where he wasn't, primarily guarded by Aaron Gordon, he would be guarded by, KCP and, Bruce Brown, people like that, which KCP is a hell of a defender. He got a lot of steals. He got a lot of forced turnovers, but, Jimmy's obviously a lot bigger than those kind of guys, and he would still be very reluctant to score. He wouldn't, he just wouldn't look to score. And that, in these kind of games where, even the announcer said it. I think it was, Mark Jackson, he said, you got to look at Jimmy Butler and you got to be it's time. You've waited all game. He had 8 points going into the fourth quarter. Maybe not even that. I really don't know, but it wasn't good. And, you got to look at it and be okay, it's about time. It's about time to start, scoring and taking over this game and being what everybody has called you this whole, playoffs. Jimmy, he can get your team through anything. He's this, superstar. And that, Stephen A. Smith recently said that Jimmy Butler is not a superstar and that he's not compared to guys like Giannis and Kevin Durant and, Steph Curry, and he's not that. And I, partly agree with that because I believe Jimmy is, although he's a hell of a player, he has a hell of a mentality. He's not that. And I think this finals proved that. I think he's not to the level of a guy like Giannis, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic, people like that. I don't believe he's there yet. Not saying that, he's obviously, Jimmy's been in the league a long time. I just don't think he's there. And I think this finals proved that because he was always looking around like someone else saved this team. I don't want to be the guy that has to score. I don't want to be the guy that has to, do everything. And obviously, it wasn't just that. Obviously, the Nuggets, I feel like the Heat had finally met their match. Obviously, no one expected the Heat to get there. I've talked about this over the past episodes. No one expected the Heat to even get to the finals, to even get out of the first round. No one expected Miami to beat the Bucks, but they did. No one expected them to beat the Celtics, but they did. They got to the finals, and they finally met their match. The Nuggets were just simply too good. And, you look at the end of the game where it's getting close, it's getting down to, crunch time. Jimmy Butler starts, actually like, hey, I need to start scoring. He starts scoring a little bit. And, it goes back and forth, in that fourth quarter. This really was a good game 5. But it goes back and forth in that fourth quarter. And you look at Jimmy Butler, and there's I believe there was a minute left, and he decides they're down 3. It wasn't a minute. It was like 20-something seconds left. There was still plenty of time on the shot clock, plenty of time to get a good look. Could have even gotten a 2 if they wanted to. I believe the score was 92-89. And Jimmy gets the ball, not even facing the rim, and takes a contested 3. Didn't even get close to going in. I mean, it was just a terrible shot, and I remember just thinking, why? I don't understand why you take that shot. But at the same time, I feel like it ended how it should have because the Nuggets were clearly the better team. And for that game to go down how it did and the Heat to have literally everything they would ever want out of the Nuggets, shooting 5 for 28 for 3, that's never going to happen again. Jokic only finished this game with 4 assists. Typically, when he finishes with low assist numbers, good things happen. Still didn't go in their way. They held the Nuggets to 94 points. They only scored 89. There's your problem. There's your problem. I don't care what anybody says. You only scoring 89 points in a finals game, you are more likely than not going to lose. And that's what happened. And this game 5 was fun. It was fun to watch. Jokic obviously finished the game with 28 points, 16 rebounds. He did have 4 assists, but he shot 12 of 16. Just crazy efficiency. He's been doing that all playoffs. I mean, the efficiency this guy, has is just incredible. He takes good shots. Even on shots you would think that, probably won't go in, they somehow roll around and go in for Jokic. He's just an incredible player. He's a one-of-one player. Michael Porter Jr. Finally, this literally took so long for Michael Porter Jr. to do, and that was have a good game. He has struggled all finals. He still kind of struggled this game shooting the ball, but he finally stopped shooting the ball this game and was aggressive. He was able to get good looks early. He drove the ball. He was getting offensive rebounds, getting and-ones, putting shots back up, playing aggressive, playing like Michael Porter Jr. should play. And, I was happy to see it because he's been struggling all finals. And finally, he has a good game. He had 16 points to go along with 13 rebounds. And on a game where Jamal Murray is, not doing the best, not shooting the ball the best, he needed to have that game. He was the second leading scorer for the Nuggets. Aaron Gordon didn't have a good game. After the 27-point game 4, Aaron Gordon had 6 points. He did not have a good game. He had to sit out a lot, obviously, because of foul trouble. But still, Michael Porter Jr. needed to deliver, and he did. Huge game from him. Looking over at the Heat side, Jimmy Butler did finish the game with 21 points, but he shot 5 of 18, and probably I would say 12 of his 21 came in the fourth quarter when, he should have been doing this all game when they had the lead throughout the whole first half into the third quarter where they had the lead. They could have kept trying to extend it and try to put this game out of reach so the Nuggets wouldn't have even had the thought that they were going to come back. But he didn't do that. He waited until finally he was like, okay, maybe now I should start to try to take over. And you can't do that, especially against a team like the Nuggets. Again, Gabe Vincent shooting 3 for 13 is just terrible. I don't know where he was, these last 3 games of the finals. He played very, very hesitant. And, it showed after games 3 and 4 that he lost confidence in himself. And I could tell by the way he was shooting, every time he finally made a 3, I think one time, and he was celebrating like he just hit a game winner or something. He was so happy that he finally made a 3, and that shows that he lost a lot of confidence in himself. Because games 1 and 2, he was playing like the Finals MVP. He was 3rd on the Finals MVP ladder after game 2. That was when the series was 1-1, but he was playing unbelievable in games 1 and 2, and not like an undrafted player would play. But inexperience showed a little bit, and it ends up playing a terrible games 3 through 5, and that's what happens. Obviously, I've talked about how the Heat have struggled to score this whole finals, and I've talked about this in past episodes. They have a guy that can score, that's one of their best scorers, might be their best scorer in terms of, I'm saying scorer, not player, in terms of who can create their own shot, get clean looks, create shots off the dribble, open up space for his teammates, and that is Tyler Hero, who I did not think would come back after games 3 and 4. He was supposed to come back game 3. He warmed up for game 2. He was supposed to come back games 3 and 4 in Miami. He didn't. He was in street clothes both those games. Then game 5, all of a sudden, on the day of, they get a report that said Tyler Hero is going to try to play. And so, obviously the Nuggets didn't care because they were just like, we're still going to do our thing. We're not going to care if, Hero comes back. He didn't even look that good in warm-ups anyway. But he was going to try to play. He warmed up game 5, and then officially they got the, report that he is playing. He will suit up game 5. He is going to play. Kept patiently waiting. In game 5, Tyler Hero never checked in. And I don't know if there was a mind game thing that the Heat were trying to do there by, the Nuggets thinking that, maybe Tyler Hero comes back in, we have to respect him because he's one of the best scorers on this team, but he never came back in, and I honestly don't know if that was his decision or if that was Eric Spoelstra's decision, but I think it just still goes back to the fact that, this is a big moment, and, dropping yourself in a game 5 of the NBA Finals when you haven't played in 6 weeks is a really, really tough thing to do, and that's obviously probably went through Tyler Hero's mind. Obviously, a hand injury, it's a tough injury to come back from, especially, in the NBA Finals. Your handles, your shot, your everything has to be crystal clear. You have to be perfect, and it's a tough thing to do. You don't feel comfortable on that hand maybe. Your handles aren't, as good as they should be, and that's ultimately what happens to guys, and I think Tyler Hero felt the pressure a little bit. It almost reminds me of, Kevin Durant when he got hurt in that Rockets series, 2018-19 season. He had that calf strain, and then they dropped him back in, game 5 of the finals against Toronto when they were down 3-1, and he comes in for 11 minutes and then ends up tearing his Achilles and missing the whole next season. So maybe Tyler Hero was thinking about that. Maybe he didn't want to re-injure his hand, make it worse. I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't think it would have mattered. It would have, but it wouldn't have mattered in this as far as the series. Obviously, the Heat would have scored more if Tyler Hero was in, but he's also a defensive liability. So a lot of things to look at there, and a lot of things to look at for the Heat's future. Tyler Hero not being in this humongous playoff run, because obviously he got injured game 1 of the Bucks series, so he wasn't a factor at all in the Heat's path to the finals. It makes it really interesting to see what the Heat are going to do in the offseason, possibly including him in a trade package, because with him out, they were able to put guys like Caleb Martin in and get Gabe Vincent in and people like that who are a lot better defensively than Tyler Hero. Obviously, he can score the ball at a really high rate, but there's, obviously a lot of questions with him involving his defense. But again, that's for, another day. Obviously, this offseason coming up is going to be pretty crazy, and I can't wait to get into all that. But again, talking about this Nuggets team, it really reminds me of, and I've talked about this I think in episode 1, the Bucks 2021 team, which this team had been in the playoffs a couple years past. You know, they end up facing a tough team and they couldn't get it done. And then they finally, after they built the core together, finally got all their guys together, got all their guys healthy, they win. And you look at, it's the same, comparison with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokic, because both guys won 2 MVPs. And, you look at Giannis, he, won MVP the 2018-2019 season, and then the 2019-2020 season when, it finished in the bubble. He won back-to-back MVPs, then the next year he won a championship. Same with Nikola Jokic. He won MVP the last 2 years. Then comes this year, Joel Embiid wins MVP, and Jokic says, well, I'm going to one-up that. I'm going to win a championship, and he does. So, a lot to talk about there, and it's a lot of, things to think about with Nikola Jokic. And now, looking at his resume is pretty impressive. He's got 2 MVPs. He now has a championship. He now has a finals MVP. And that puts him, obviously into so many conversations. We're not going to get into all that because there's a lot to talk about there. But that puts him in a lot of different conversations with, the great centers of this, this league has ever seen. Wilt Chamberlain, Akeem Olajuwon. Some people even said he's got more, skills on the basketball court than Shaquille O'Neal, which to an extent I agree with, but he's obviously not Shaquille O'Neal. They're 2 different centers. Obviously, Shaquille O'Neal couldn't shoot threes. He was just physically dominant. Obviously, he's the most dominant player to ever play in the NBA, in my opinion. But, there were just 2 different style of centers. Obviously, Nikola Jokic looked to pass a lot more. When Shaq got the ball in the post, he was going through somebody and going up to dunk, and not many people could stop that. But Jokic isn't like that. Jokic is a pass-first center. Despite all of his crazy numbers that he has put up, he's a pass-first center. So, obviously, we can talk more about, Nikola Jokic and where he falls in the all-time center list at a later date. But, this episode is really just about how, his path that he went through, and to get to where he is right now. He went through some tough defensive bigs, some of the league's best defending bigs. Looking at the first round, he went through Rudy Gobert, who, despite all you can say about Rudy Gobert's offense and his actions toward his teammates, not many people like Rudy Gobert, but he is a really good defender. He's won Defensive Player of the Year a couple times. He's been on all defensive teams. He is a good defender, and Jokic, made it look easy on him. He probably did the best defending him. Jokic still put up like 26, 12, and 5, I think he averaged against, Rudy Gobert. But he did the best is what's so crazy about that. You look in the second round with DeAndre Ayton, and there's so much to be said about this, but, you look back 2 years ago when the Bucks won their championship, and the Nuggets-Suns series, when the Suns swept the Nuggets 4-0, DeAndre Ayton held his own, and I think honestly it shows that where Nikola Jokic has gone in 2 years and where DeAndre Ayton has gone in 2 years, because this year Nikola Jokic made him look like he wasn't even there. Made single coverage was just laughable. He averaged like 35, 13, and 10 against Phoenix, and that was primarily with DeAndre Ayton guarding him. So that shows a lot about Nikola Jokic and shows a lot about DeAndre Ayton and, how he should, what his future is with Phoenix, because that's a long story. But you look at the next series, the Lakers, they tried throwing multiple looks at Jokic. Obviously, Anthony Davis is a hell of a defender. He's a hell of a player, but obviously he didn't take that matchup personal with Nikola Jokic. He didn't, look at that matchup and is like, I'm going to prove I'm a better center than him. They even thought the answer was Roy Hachimura. After game 1, when Roy was matched up on Nikola Jokic only scored like 6 points against them. So okay, this is our answer. It wasn't the answer. He still scored 28. He averaged 28, 15, and 12 against them. This is just unreal numbers for a guy that, I think he averaged a triple-double throughout these playoffs. And I don't think, it's hard to remember a time where anyone's ever done that. So, again, matchup nightmare for just about everybody. And you look at Jokic, and obviously with guys like that, I compared him to Giannis in 2021, who Giannis had an unreal finals against the Suns in 2021. He put up 50 points in Game 6 to win. Obviously, these guys could not do it alone. Giannis had Chris Middleton. He had Drew Holiday. You look at Jokic, he has Jamal Murray. He has Aaron Gordon. He has Michael Porter. And speaking of Jamal Murray, he was almost the perfect, running mate for Nikola Jokic. He was almost that perfect, second guy. Obviously, he didn't have, the best finals. He played good. He didn't have the best finals, but he had one hell of a playoffs. He is, without Jamal Murray, the Nuggets are not in the finals, and that is without a doubt. I don't think anybody can argue against that, but he was the perfect, person to pair up with Jokic. Their pick and roll game was just, unmatched. Jamal Murray was able to create shots, and it's a great thing to see. After he tore his ACL in 2021, a lot of people were wondering if Jamal Murray would ever come back. He recently said to the team owner, he said, "Thank you for believing in me," because, it takes a lot of faith to believe, a guy that has such a severe injury like that to come back and not only play to the level he was playing, but to take it to another level. And he did that. He came back in these playoffs and showed that he's on another level than the Murray was before he got injured. And, he took Denver with him, obviously. So props up to Jamal Murray for just, being there and, scoring and running the offense and really, also lifting Denver, on his shoulders. Obviously, Jokic had mainly the, team on his back, but Jamal Murray was one hell of a partner to pair up with Nikola Jokic. And then you look at guys like Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. Aaron Gordon almost is like the perfect role player for this Denver Nuggets team. He was making plays. Him and Jokic had such good chemistry. There would be times where Jokic wouldn't even look at where he was passing. He'd just throw it up there and Aaron Gordon would go dunk it. It would just be a lob. Jokic wouldn't even be looking at the basket. He'd just throw it up there. Aaron Gordon would go dunk it. He'd have some reverse layup finishes in midair. Freak athlete. He's always been that. You've seen him in slam dunk contests. He's a freak athlete. And it showed. He's the perfect role player. The things Aaron Gordon had to do were not easy. And obviously he said in an interview that, he had the ability or he had the opportunity to guard LeBron, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, and lock up all those guys. I wouldn't say he necessarily locked those guys up, but he did one hell of a job guarding them. And it shows, he's one of the better defenders in this league and a guy that can help Jokic out. It means Jokic didn't have to guard Karl Anthony Towns, or didn't have to guard Kevin Durant, or didn't have to guard LeBron James. Aaron Gordon was that guy. He's also a guy that can score. He's also a guy, he doesn't look to score, to be honest. Teams will leave him open, but he shows in Game 4 he scored 27. He was able to take advantage of his matchups. He was able to put good minutes, good stats on the board, except for Game 5, which everybody can look past that because they won the championship. But he was the perfect role player for this Denver Nuggets team, and it showed throughout the whole playoffs. Then you look at Michael Porter Jr., which despite all of his struggles in the finals, he was a humongous part of this, lead up to the finals. And obviously Michael Malone said it. He said, he talked to Michael Porter Jr. about his struggles, and he said, "Without you, we're not here." He said, you have to pick it up because in order for us to win this championship, you have to be good. You have to play better. And it showed because in Game 5 he came out and played his best game of the finals and he dropped 16. So you look at that and you look at this Nuggets team, and you look at what the Heat tried to do. The Heat physically tried everything. They tried dropping on Jamal Murray. They tried switching, in the man. They tried blitzing Murray. They tried, all these things. They tried to double Nikola Jokic. They tried single coverage with sending help on the baseline. They tried, switching to a zone defense. The Nuggets had an answer for absolutely everything, and it showed throughout these whole playoffs. Obviously, these things would work, and Eric Spoelstra is one hell of a coach. Obviously, he's done incredible things in his past, but it just shows that the Nuggets, every single adjustment the Heat would make, or any team would make for that matter, the Nuggets had an answer for it. And that's just the truth. There's nothing else to be said about that. The Nuggets simply had an answer for everything. And, another thing about the Nuggets was their defense. Their defense was something incredible. In the past, their defense was an issue and their defense was a problem. They were obviously good offensively, but their defensive ratings were not the best. And that, that wasn't really a big thing back then because the Nuggets weren't really contenders. But now being contenders, everybody worried about their defense. Michael Malone said it best. In all the timeouts, he said it starts with defense. We play good defense, it leads to good offense, and that any coach will tell you that. But Michael Malone really preached it. He made sure the Nuggets played good defense. And, defense wins championships, and it did. So, obviously, looking in, further about their defense, Jokic, who's not the most athletic guy in the world, obviously. He's big. He's kind of, you look at pictures of him in the past, and he was a chubby dude. But he was able to really be intimidating around the rim. He held all of Miami's shooters to 52% when they were around the basket. And that sounds high, but being around the basket and only shooting 52% for Miami is not the best. And, especially with a guy like Nikola Jokic, who's not known for his defensive, abilities. He's known for all of his offensive playmaking and, things he does on that side of the ball. But it was so bad to the point of, watching Game 5, Jimmy was so reluctant to drive and attack Nikola Jokic. There was times where he had a crucial turnover when he was going to attack Nikola Jokic and then had to kick out because he was, I think he slipped a little bit, but he got almost looked at Nikola Jokic and was like, oh God, I don't want to go up against this dude. So that's just another thing that you got to look at, and, you tip your hat to the Nuggets because all in all, the Nuggets were hard to attack, but they were even harder to stop. And teams like that, they do good, and they have success, and they win championships. And obviously you could see that happened, and the Nuggets were victorious, and they won their first championship in franchise history. Long 47 years. I'm happy for the city of Denver. It felt right. It felt like the Nuggets deserved it. I'm really happy for Nikola Jokic. I saw him, at the championship parade that they had. He didn't even want to go to it first, but then when he got there, he was like, I want to stay here all day. This is the best time of my life. So good thing for them. Good thing for the city of Denver. And a really, really good finish to this NBA season. It's been a really good season. Looking forward to now looking towards the off season. There's a lot of stuff to be talked about the draft obviously coming up very soon, a lot of free agents, a lot of trades that are works, a lot of things that are happening right now, a lot of storylines. But that will be the end of this episode. I will get into all the off-season stuff in my next couple of episodes leading up to the NBA draft, which I believe is Thursday, I want to say. That sounds right. I think it's Thursday. But anyways, that'll be it for this episode, guys. I appreciate y'all watching. Go check out episodes 3, 2, and 1 and give them a like if you haven't already. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it as well and subscribe to the channel. It's much appreciated, y'all. Like I said, I'll be back very soon. Obviously, I'm going to upload a little bit more. I've been, obviously sick, but I'm feeling better now, and everything should be good. So, guys, thank you guys for watching this video again, and I'll be back for episode 5 very soon. See y'all.